Welcome to the Candidates Forum, presented by the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County and Oshkosh Community Media Services Television, City Cable 10. This event will be simulcast on WOCT 101.9 FM, Oshkosh Community Radio. The forum may also be accessed via video streaming on the Oshkosh Community Media Services website at www.oshkoshcommunitymedia.org and on the Oshkosh Community Media Services YouTube channel. I am Kathleen Propp, co-president of the Winnebago County League of Women Voters, your moderator. The League is a nonpartisan organization of men and women that works to encourage active participation in government. Our mission is to inform citizens about major public policy issues and about candidates seeking office. For more information about us, access our website at www.lwvwinnebago.org. Joining me on the panel for this portion of the forum is League of Women Voters co-president Ann Marshall. Mayor Bergtauer is not seeking re-election. The two candidates for the mayor's 2-year position currently serve on the Oshkosh City Council. Alphabetically, they are Steve Cummings and Caroline Pansky. Our timekeeper will give you cues, and we thank you in advance for keeping your answers short so that we may cover as many issues as possible. Audience questions in this first section are welcome. Please submit them in writing to the League representative. Candidates received the first 3 questions in advance. So we'll start with opening statements. There'll be a time limit of 2 minutes. Tell us about your qualifications and why you are seeking the office of mayor. And we'll start alphabetically with Steve Cummings.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you to the League for again hosting this forum, as they did prior to the primary, and those of you who are watching it. There's a lot of reasons why I am seeking the office of mayor. I think first and foremost, I have lived here for 5 generations, as has my wife and our families. I have been a small business owner. I have worked for a Fortune 500 company in marketing. I've been on the council for 5 years. One of those years, I was deputy mayor. And I think I've proven myself a very effective leader. I have a lot of vision. I know how to get things done. When I first ran for council 5 years ago, I talked about the need for the riverfront to finally get the riverfront developed, which had been in the works for probably 20 years. Nothing had happened. I talked a lot about the need for a strategic plan, and that is my business background is the need for a strategic plan. We did our first strategic plan in 2012. We updated it in 2014. And I think for those of you who do watch the council meetings, you see how professional we operate the meetings. It's because we're making decisions based on a strategic plan. And we really can't afford change for the sake of change. It is critical that we follow that strategic plan. We can't afford to go forward to the past. Things I talked about when I first ran for mayor, in addition to the need for a strategic plan, were economic development. I think all the things that we've talked about, you're going to see lead to economic development. Economic development is we need to retain jobs, we need to create jobs. I talked about healthy neighborhoods. We now have established 9 neighborhood associations. My goal in the next, as mayor, is to establish 2 or 3 associations every year on the south side and on the west side. Infrastructure, I think that has been addressed as on my years on the council. And, okay.
I'm sorry, his time is up. Caroline.
Well, thank you again to the League of Women's Voters for hosting this and everyone who came out this evening. It's important to see the involvement here, which is why I got involved to begin with. I can bring to the table a little bit different perspective. I'm a little bit younger. I'm 33 years old. I have been here the majority of my life in the same neighborhood that I grew up in, and I'm very proud of that. I'm choosing to raise my kids in that very same neighborhood as well, going to the same elementary schools that I did, elementary school, just one. They will be going to the same public schools that I went to, and maybe even UWO someday like I did. I'm interested in this. I find it fun. I'm having a good time. I'm meeting an incredible amount of people. I think taking this to the next step to be your mayor is going to be scary, but I'm ready to embrace it, and I'm ready to look at things a little bit differently than how they've been looked at so far. I think we can make incredible progress. We already are. I am happy to be a resident of the city of Oshkosh. I think we're on a good track, and I hope to keep it that way. So my involvement, I hope, spurs other younger people to get involved as well, whether it be on a council position or within our city's boards and committees. I'm passionate about this, and this is a starting point for me, so I hope you support me and vote April 7th.
Thank you. Second question, Ann.
On your to-do list, what are your personal top 2 or 3 priorities for the city of Oshkosh, and why these?
And we'll start this time with Caroline.
Thank you. I kind of focused on the word personal with this one. Sticking with neighborhoods is a big theme for me, obviously. I hope you don't get sick of me talking about neighborhoods, but I think that is the foundation of our city, and we should be focusing on our neighbors and our neighborhoods. Bike and pedestrian plans and transit is another focus for me personally. I do not own my own vehicle, so I am dependent on walking around town, riding my bike when I can, when there isn't snow like we had yesterday morning. So to be focused on that personally, to see where I can make those improvements, not just for myself, but for the greater good of everybody else who may be riding their bike, walking around town, or using public transportation. Those are areas that I can really kind of immerse myself in and pinpoint where we can improve those areas. So those would be my personal goals.
Thank you, Caroline. Steve Cummings.
Thank you. Well, I have a number, but I'll hit a few. I try to, in 2 minutes, hit some of the highlights. One area that I'm currently working on, and the city staff is working on, but it's a goal to get this done this year, is a rental inspection and registration program. It's all part of the healthy neighborhood concept, but my feeling is everyone deserves the opportunity to live in a clean and safe environment. And that will begin with the rental inspection registration program. I've been working with the university, the data students, to get them involved in the program because so much of our rental housing is in the university area. And it's part of really stabilizing our neighborhoods. For those of you who live in Oshkosh a long time, you've seen our older neighborhoods where homes have been converted to multiple family or two family. They're not well maintained. As that happens, the neighboring properties start to lose their value. And this is part of our strategy to stabilize the equity the citizens of Oshkosh have in their homes. The second area I'm quite passionate about is developing a historic tourism program. We have a rich history in the city. We have a variety of architecture. Our heritage is very deep and rich. We have not done much with it in the past. I've been working with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the museum, the Payne Arts Center, and other groups to put together a historic tourism program. And really the ultimate goal is to generate tourist dollars into the city of Oshkosh. Another thing, and we are working on, I'm not just alone, but it's very important to the city, is reviewing our self-insured health program. You know, our first step was coming up with the 3 Waves Clinic that opened recently, but it's personnel and insurance is a major cost to the taxpayer, and we're addressing that now on the council. It was an initiative that I brought up, I think, almost 2 years ago. We finally, after other things got done, we are now addressing the cost of health insurance. 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much. This next question you also received in advance. What impact will the proposed 2015-2017 state budget have on city revenue and services? Again, the time limit is 2 minutes, and we start with Steve Cummings this time.
Thank you again. I think at this point we can only make assumptions what the impact the budget will have on us. One thing I did do, I went to the League of Municipalities conference in October last year in Madison. And as mayor, I will become more involved in that organization because the cities have an impact on what does happen in Madison. And I feel, and I think we all feel, Madison has slowly been taking away our self-control. And we have to be involved in that organization. Some other things I want to do as far as the budget, we are a service business. That's all we provide is a service. And when it comes to the cost, the only way to cut costs is to cut service. There is no other way to get the cost out of it. And I think, as mayor, I want to ensure that we provide a high level of service to the citizens of Oshkosh at an affordable price. And that's going to be very difficult to do. Things we have to do is get the funding back from Madison that they've taken from us. The public municipal services money we used to get from Madison is constantly cut, and that is dollars they give to any community that has universities, prisons, where we're providing fire and police protection, but we're not getting tax dollars back. So as part of my involvement with the league is to really work on getting those tax dollars back. Our funding for community block grant dollars keeps getting cut, but yet we're expected by Madison, by Washington, to provide all these mandated services, and they constantly cut the funding. We're left basically holding the bag, trying to determine how we can provide these services and not raise taxes. I'm saying that not raising taxes will never happen, but we have to look for new sources of revenue. And that's, again, a historic tourism program. You get dollars coming in. Economic development, we need companies coming in here. We need people moving to the city, building homes, building businesses. Is my time up?
Thank you very much. Caroline?
Well, kind of echoing what Mr. Cummings stated, it's a little early in the budget proposal to really know what the impact will be. It's easy to say that these cuts are expected, and it will probably only get worse before it gets better. There's tough times. I am a firm believer that in my own budget and in a city budget, even though very different, we must live within our means. Going through the strategic plan, we have identified items that are a must-have, a need versus a want. Sticking to those plans will be very important. We will have to get creative and find other sources of funding to keep Oshkosh as great as we are. But at the same time, if you want specific services and if you want to keep them at a higher level, you have to pay for that. As Steve said, funding back from Madison, I don't think that is a source that we can count on. We are going to have to do this by ourselves, looking into other ways to generate revenue for ourselves and keep our services.
Thank you very much. It's time now for questions from the audience and the panel, and we'll start with Ann Marshall, who has a question.
What specific actions would you take to improve the central city area? But first start with what you see as the boundaries are of that area, because it kind of changes depending on what you're doing. Let's see, who goes first? I think you do, yes.
Thank you. Central City, myself as a South Sider, the Central City has always been to me kind of this area along the river here, and then leading into our downtown. As I stated before, I've been in that same neighborhood for quite a while now, and it just seems to be a natural boundary to have that river, especially defining it now with the Riverwalk. It seems to be that area of focus. Then moving a little bit towards the Buckstaff property there on my side of town, if you could say that. Redevelopment in that area, I truly believe, is going to start with the neighbors, the residents themselves. They will tell you what they want to see. They will tell you what they want to utilize. We just have to be open and available to listen to them.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Thank you. I think I've been defining the central city basically, having lived here all of my life, as many of you have, the north-south issue seems to not want to go away. And I've been going to look at, we're a city that has a river going through it. It's sort of like a main street. I look at the central city as pretty much South Park, north to possibly Irving, maybe New York, and then probably Jackson going east as far as Broad Street. It's kind of a broad definition. One thing we're starting to do is, with the central city, and I mentioned this historic tourism, that is where we'll first start doing historic tourism, because that's where the bulk of the historic buildings are. And that doesn't mean it's the South Side program or North Side program. It's taking the historic aspects of that central portion of the city as our base for this historic tourism. I think that will start giving it its own unique character. And as we begin to develop on the riverfront, we're looking for mixed use, higher density, office, commercial, condo, apartment type of thing. Another thing we're doing, we've been working with the State Historical Society to have a number of the buildings put on historic district as far as neoclassical, the library, the old post office, the insurance company, Washington Building, the old Masonic Temple. It provides tax credit to those developers who want to bring those buildings back to life. And that's the one way we can adapt those historically important buildings, is finding new uses for them, but we have to have the incentives through tax credits for the developers to become interested in these projects.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm interested in following up on that. I don't know that either one of you mentioned much about neighborhoods. What can the city specifically do within the central city neighborhoods to improve things?
Well, I kind of stated that we need to, we already have a few neighborhood associations established within the central city as I would define it. And we are relying on them to communicate with us what their specific needs are. There aren't too many neighborhoods in town that are all the same. Everyone has a different specific need, and you can't generalize that by giving them all the same park or the same sculpture, water fountain, whatever quality of life issue it may be, or the same store. Not everybody shops at the same thing. So we need to really engage our citizens and get involved, and they need to do it vice versa. We all live in the same city. We need to act like a team and figure out what specific needs are in those areas. It's all going to change depending on where you are and who lives there.
Okay. Steve?
The neighborhood association that is closest to what we define as the downtown area is the River East. And I think they made a big impact this year just in what they did with that small garden space across from the library called the, I think the Waters Plaza. So I think the central, if you want to, the central city is going to be a little bit different than the traditional neighborhoods we've been dealing with. We've got 9 neighborhood associations. They all are very different. I was involved in the formation of the first one, which was Stevens Park, which is where we live. And I don't know if I've got an answer right now how we're going to take the central city, which is going to be so different. It's not our traditional neighborhood with a lot of houses, and bring it together as more of an urban neighborhood. I think it's doable, but that's one area that we have not addressed as a city. Our concern is getting something going on the south side. The closest I got, helped form the Marina District, which is, it's on the other side of the river, but it's bounded by Oshkosh Avenue and Witzel and Sawyer and the river. And so it's an interesting, I don't think it's one area that we've given a lot of thought to, quite frankly.
Okay. Let's shift to economic development. We had an audience question, and this could pertain to the new Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation, GO EDC, or perhaps to the mayor's role. The audience question is, if an existing business or company currently located in Oshkosh with substantial number of jobs wants to move outside the city, perhaps to a regional community, or if a new business comes in that is essentially playing Oshkosh against Fond du Lac, against Appleton, Would you advocate extraordinary financial support for such a business? In other words, bidding, call it a bidding war for financial support that the city might offer to either keep the business or attract it? So it's a theoretical question. We'll start with Steve.
Yes. Every community is doing it throughout the state, throughout the country, throughout the world. That's how business is done in this day and age. Companies pick up and move, and they don't care about the community and the people they leave behind. When Geldwin closed down what was left of the Morgan Company, I'm sure the executives in Washington had no clue where Oshkosh, Wisconsin was, could care less about the company, its history, of the employees. It happens all the time. So I think to be competitive, we have to play by the rules that have been established. And that's how you keep business. You've got to give them some financial incentives.
What kind of, I'll ask you again, but Caroline first. What would your answer be? Extraordinary financial
being
support?
fiscally responsible is a goal of mine within the city here. I don't want to be throwing money around to a company just to keep them here. It would depend on a lot of different factors: how many jobs they're providing, the median income of those jobs. It would depend on a variety of factors before I would enter a bidding war, so to speak. I would have to know more specifics about it, but being budget-minded, I don't know how far I would want to go as far as throwing money around for a specific company.
Okay. Ann, do you have a question?
What do you see as the mayor's role beyond that of a council member who presides at meetings? As mayor, how will you relate to the community, the council, department head, city administration, those as different from the way you do as a council person? And that's 1 minute, and I think, Caroline, you
Sure.
start that.
I consider myself to be a normal, regular citizen, just like anybody else. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal or trying to be somebody I'm not. I'm pretty true to myself. I think I'm very relatable to a wide variety of people. I'm very involved with different things, whether it's UW-Oshkosh Head Start, where my son is enrolled, or my other son's Franklin Elementary School. I'm a docent at the Payne Arts Center. I'm a poll worker, so I hang out at the Senior Center. Just being available and open to talk to people with a smile on your face and approachable, and just to be that cheerleader of the community and embrace a real positive outlook on things, I think embodies what a mayor should be for its city.
Okay. Steve?
Thank you. Well, the mayor has limited power. I mean, we appoint people to boards and commissions. We run the meetings. Aside from that, I think we are the face of the community. It's how the mayor presents him or herself in front of the community, but also as important is how that person presents themselves and the community outside of the community. I mentioned going to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Conference last fall, and the bulk of the council was there, and it was noted that Oshkosh had a large contingent of people there. Burke Tower was there, I was there, 2 or 3 other council members were there. It was very impressive that we were there in force representing the city. As far as the other activities, I think people perceive the mayor to have more powers than they do, which you can use to your advantage to get things done. Which I think, but you don't abuse them. I'm out in the public a great deal. Very approachable. I mean, I've lived here for next to ever. People knew who I am. I go back to the construction of Frankfurt and Harney Street a couple of years ago. I mean, that neighborhood is very modest, and we got hit with some pretty big assessments. People knew where I lived. No one came and complained. They were happy. Thank you for finally doing it, fixing our streets. But I'm a very approachable person. I'm just,
Okay. We've let you run a little bit longer. Caroline, did you have something else you wanted to add to that? question.
No, that's fine. I tend to keep my answers short and simple and right to the point because I know we have other things to get into, and hopefully I can move on to some other questions if there are any.
We have another question from the audience. Do you agree with the direction the city is on? If not, what would you change and why? Steve.
I think it's Steve's chance to start.
Obviously, I fully agree with the direction the city's on since I was part of setting that direction. I was the one, when I first ran for council, said that there are certain things we had to do, and one of which was strategic planning. Our first session was in 2012. We revised the strategic plan in 2014. I think what was really encouraging and refreshing when we did it last summer is all the city staff that was there were on the same page. When we talked about healthy neighborhoods, every department knew the role they played in making healthy neighborhoods a reality. When we taught economic development, everyone knew their role in that. There was no, what do you mean, or I don't understand. I mean, it was, I've been through a lot of strategic planning sessions in my career. This was perhaps the most energetic, the most positive, the quickest moving I've ever been involved in. And we're really living our strategic plan. I've said before, the council meetings are not these ordeals they used to be, because we come there and we're voting to make that strategic plan a reality. And we've kind of put our strategic plan in a small card. I've got some for those. If you like them afterwards, I'm done.
Caroline.
Yes, I do agree with the current path that we are on. That's part of why I got involved. I liked what I was seeing happening in Oshkosh, and I wanted to make sure that those things continued on for my children and for my children's children.
Okay, I want to follow up on the strategic plan, because as I think you both mentioned, it includes 4 goals: support economic development, strengthen our neighborhoods, improve and maintain our infrastructure, and improve our quality of life assets. So we want specifics in this question, and if it takes a little bit longer, that's okay. What next steps are most important in each of these goals? What are you looking to have happen in later here in 2015, early 2016? Pick out the 1 or 2 that you think is the most important. And I guess we'll pick on Caroline first.
Well, kind of hard to pick out all 4 of them.
Well, pick out one area and talk about what's
my
most
biggest
important.
focus in becoming mayor is our neighborhoods. I truly believe that is the foundation of everything. And maybe it's because I still feel like I'm just that citizen. You know, I'm just that girl next door, or the girl down the street, whatever that may be. But I really think that's the foundation, and strengthening them and giving them the support to really grow and accomplish their individual goals is a big key for me. I truly believe that is the foundation of having a great city, not only to feel safe and secure, but to rely on each other, accomplish goals together. Infrastructure was the other one that stuck out with your question. We will always need to improve our buildings, maintain our buildings. That is obvious. Do we need to communicate these ideas better? Yes, absolutely. And when we're spending millions of dollars on a central city garage, people need to know what we're spending this money on and how we're spending it, and being responsible with the tax dollars that we're given to build these things and maintain our city's infrastructure. So communication is going to be key. A more open and transparent government comes along with increased communication.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
The one that drives all the others is quality of life, or quality of life assets. Without that, the others won't happen. And I say that about 1.5 years ago, I had a meeting with the city manager of Athens, Georgia. and some of their the preservation people too, and they just brought in a 1,200-employee Caterpillar plant. And I said, well, why did they pick Athens, Georgia? Well, it has a large university, which we have a large university. He said there was financial aid from the county, the city, and the state, which we asked about financial aid before, a quality workforce, which they had, land, which we have, and he said, but if there isn't the quality of life the company is looking for, either to expand, relocate, build a new plant, or stay, if that quality of life doesn't exist, the spouse of the CEO will not make the move. And I'm careful to say spouse. He did not use the word spouse. And I've talked to other business owners in the city, and I said, what role, if you're planning to relocate the company, would your spouse play in that? I've talked to some people at the university, professors, who, how did you pick Oshkosh and so forth? And they said the decision was either a joint or was driven by my spouse. And if I were to relocate my plant, my spouse it would be a shared total decision. So it goes back to quality of life. It's the infrastructure. It's boat docks and tennis courts and parks and libraries. It's the housing stock. It's, you know, high quality housing at affordable prices. It's a vibrant central city. And done.
Thank you very much. Well, that was very interesting. But it does conclude the mayor segments of the forum. The election is Tuesday, April 7. You may vote for one of these candidates for a 2-year term as Oshkosh mayor. After a brief break, we will resume with candidates for Oshkosh City Council. Let's give them a round of applause.